It's the Red River rematch. Only this time, it's for much more than the Golden Hat. The college football playoff finally saw a shakeup in its top four, and Texas basketball is on the rise. All this and more on College Crossfire.
I guess we'll get into it. Always enthusiastic, unbelievable, hard-nosed.
All right, let me explain why Aaron Judge is getting it. You can boo me all you want.
I knew Texas was going to win, and then one of the Texas team was going to lose.
Cannon. I don't like the cannon. Oh, wait, you don't like this cannon?
All right, I'm done.
This is all chaos.
Welcome into College Crossfire. Thank you for being here with us tonight. I'm your host, Jonathan Polasek. We've got a lot to discuss, but before we do, let's meet our panel. We're starting with returning champions. Been a couple of weeks since we had Thanksgiving break, but Justin Morris, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I had a final today. Oh, okay. I had a
Boo
final
Birds are
today.
out early.
Man, we just started, but I had a final today, finished it, and I'm kind of like chilling right now. So
Chilling right now, looking to get another win.
Hopefully.
Up next, we have Christine Taylor. She's back on after a lengthy hiatus.
Back
How are
in
you
the
doing?
year. I'm doing good. I'm excited to be back on air, so we'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes indeed. And last but not least, we've got Henry Corwin. Henry, how you doing?
Great to be back. I had a bit of a rough day yesterday. I was sick with some sort of stomach bug, and also rest in peace to the great Steven Hillenburg, creator of SpongeBob.
Rest in peace indeed. Well, glad to have all of you on tonight, so let's just jump right on in. Texas football is back in the Big 12 Championship game for the first time since 2009. It's also the first time since 1903 that Texas and Oklahoma will play each other twice in one season. That's 4 years before Oklahoma even became a state. But looking ahead to the rematch, Oklahoma comes in once again with their high-powered offense that put up 58 against Kansas. Texas, meanwhile, they only put up 24 against the Jayhawks in their regular season finale. So does that worry you guys at all that Texas was honestly kind of offensively inept compared to Oklahoma at all?
Well, I think it's a bit of a catch-22 whenever you ask that question because Oklahoma needed to score 58 points to beat Kansas. You know, it wasn't until the fourth quarter where they were like, okay, guys, we got to actually show up now and beat these guys. This is Kansas we're talking about. But Texas was able to handle them a little bit more smoothly. So there's that. And a good thing is that Texas has a bunch of really good defensive players. Caden Stearns and Charles Omenahu were just voted Defensive Players of the Year in the Big 12, which is pretty impressive. So that's what it's going to take for the Longhorns to beat OU in this coming weekend.
Yeah, you have those two defensive monsters, really. That's who they are. That's what they've been all year long. And you're absolutely right. Texas did have to, or Oklahoma had to put up 58 or however many they did to beat Kansas. Yeah. I mean, that's just, I mean, when your defense is that bad, you know the offense just has to go.
Yeah.
Christine, Henry?
I'm not too worried about it at all, and I'll tell you why. Because what have I been saying all year about Texas is that they always play up to their competition and they play down to their competition. So they put up, so the fact they only put up 24 points against Kansas is because when they play against teams that they really are not, or that they're expected to kind of stomp, they can come out sluggish or come out playing. I see it as a lot of times they play not to lose rather than play to win. And that can cause them, like I said, to get in some of these close matchups and not be so offensively great in some of these teams like Kansas. So it doesn't worry me because when Texas goes against teams like West Virginia and Oklahoma this year, their offense has been able to rise to the occasion.
Yeah, it's when they're playing those high-powered offenses that they really show up. I meant to say, Justin, I'm giving you a couple of points for your answer. I really enjoyed what you say. I'm also giving you a couple of points for that answer as well. Christine, I mean, what do you think?
I kind of agree with a lot of both of the points that they were making because I'm not worried about it because it's a completely different team. So I feel more confident in Texas's offense playing against Oklahoma's defense rather than Kansas's defense as well. So going into this week, I'm not as worried. But, you know, we have Oklahoma's offense, so we have to see how they come up against that really big offense. So it all really depends.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and that's Sam Ehlinger. That was another thing. It really depends on how his shoulder's doing and how he's going to play, because I think that was one of his big setbacks against Kansas and why they scored so low against that defense.
He really didn't look himself. I mean, that shoulder, you could tell he didn't have the touch that he's had all season long, pretty much. I mean, it just wasn't there. The deep ball wasn't there. He looked erratic the entire game, and Texas, they were able to jump out to a big enough lead, and the defense was able to hold on.
And also you have to remember that Oklahoma has the #1 offense in the nation, so they're expected to put up a ton of points, especially against a team like Kansas. So I mean, it was the perfect recipe for how many? 58 points they put up.
58
Yeah.
points.
So perfect recipe to put up 58 points. So that's another reason why I said there's no denying that Oklahoma has a better offense than Texas. Like that.
Yeah.
Like if what would get in my opinion, and to me what would get Texas, the thing that would cause Texas to win the Big 12 title game would be their number one, their defense and their ability to just obviously you're not going to be able to stop Oklahoma, but at least maintain them in some way, because if it's just a matter of who's going to score the most points, I wouldn't really give Texas the edge.
Yeah, you don't really want to get into a track meet with them, but
Yeah.
did you have something to say about Texas offense?
Well, more on Oklahoma's defense actually. So Henry talked about how well Oklahoma's offense is doing, but they're probably one of the most lopsided teams in the entire NCAA right now, D1 at least. And you know, I think Christine talked earlier. We talked before the show. She said Oklahoma's defense is like 125th in the nation or something like that. That's you have first offense, and 125th in defense. That's pretty lopsided. And you know, like they say too, offense wins games, defense wins championships. But Oklahoma has been able to hold on throughout this entire season. The only loss they have is to Texas, but that game was lost by 3 points. So although I kind of see Oklahoma doing the same thing that Texas kind of does, in that they kind of play up to their competition. There's been a lot of times where Oklahoma fans are kind of worried about, are we going to win this game? But they end up pulling through. And Texas has had pretty similar moments like that. So it's two very similar teams going head-to-head in that perspective.
I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, you look at the Army game where, I mean, granted, Oklahoma only had the ball for like 12 minutes, 15 minutes at most, but Army put a real big scare into Oklahoma. Well, at the beginning of the year. But you have this defense. I mean, you got to wait until you see Oklahoma play somebody like perhaps Alabama, maybe Ohio State, a team of that caliber who can play actually a little bit on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and like he said about like Oklahoma being lopsided, I mean, they have to score those 58 points, you were saying earlier, because in the past 4 games they've given up over 45 points every game.
Yeah.
Their defense has given up over 45 points to each team in the past 4 games that they've played. So if they're not scoring 58 points against Kansas, they're not going to win.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter that Oklahoma, they absolutely have to do this,
Yeah.
or else, like Kyler Murray has to be at this elite level, or else Oklahoma they're just not going to win. That defense has gotten worse since they fired Mike Stoops. Ruffin McNeil, that defense has given up, I don't know, a touchdown more since the Red River rivalry, but it's significantly worse now than it was back then. So we're talking a lot about this offense, about Oklahoma's offense, but how do y'all think that Texas's offense will be able to keep up? What do you think that they'll have to do in order to keep pace with Oklahoma?
Well, they're going to have to just make sure that the receivers are tuned in, make sure that Sam Ehlinger especially is healthy, and just have confidence in him. He had that very long streak of no interceptions, and he kind of had that one last week against Kansas, but that shouldn't stop him, And a record like that is really impressive. It's going to be a while until we see something like that again. So making sure that Ehlinger is healthy, and he's the quarterback, so he's kind of the leader on the offense, and he just needs to be able to take that leadership and be confident in his receivers and his O-line as well. So.
Yeah, giving you a couple of points for that, because if Sam's not healthy, Texas is not winning this game. I'm sorry. Shane Buechele, he's a very competent backup, but I don't think that
Nice guy.
Yeah, nice guy, exactly. I'm not sure that he'd be able to actually keep up with Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I would 100% agree with that. Like Shane Buechele, when he had to play when he had to come in for the Baylor game, that was the perfect game for Shane Buechele to come into, because he was good enough to get that win against a team like Baylor, but he would not be good enough against a team like Oklahoma, in my opinion. And also, I just wanted to say this one quick thing about Texas containing Kyler Murray. What I think one of their main focal points should be is they have to be able to somewhat contain Kyler Murray's run game, because like I said, the offense we know is great, and when you are able to lock down the receivers and lock down their running game, and it seems like you're doing everything right, and then Kyler Murray can just take off outside the pocket and go for a 20-yard run. That's like a knife in the heart, because it's like you're doing, and it's really hard to game plan for something like that. So I think that is something, because it's not just it's not just the amount of yards he gets; it's a psychological dagger when you are locking up every other part of the field, and then Kyler Murray says, "Well, I'm just going to take off and run for on a 3rd and 15 and get a first down."
And to kind of go off of that, I hope, as a Texas fan, that the Texas defense has that memory of Kyler Murray running that super long touchdown in the Cotton Bowl, because I remember watching that and I was like, oh, wait a minute, this game is not over yet. So I hope that the Texas defense is able to learn from the Red River Showdown back in October and apply what they learned to this game this coming week.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of offense, like if Sam Ehlinger is healthy, they just need to be smart and take advantage of that weak defense that Oklahoma has and make sure that they're making smart plays and getting the points. The defense needs to really be smart with what Kyler Murray. They know what Kyler Murray can do. They know he can achieve those 57-yard touchdown runs, and he makes really smart passing plays. So they just have to. They know what to expect, so they need to be ready for it and prepare for it.
Yeah, they know what to expect. They know how to prepare.
Yeah.
They can keep Kyler Murray contained like they did through the first 3 quarters of the first Red River Showdown. Texas has a great shot. Very quickly, what's y'all's predictions for the Big 12 championship?
I'll say this. I don't think it's going to be as much of a shootout as the Oklahoma-West Virginia game. I think we were talking about this earlier before the show, that it's hard to outdo a game like the Cotton Bowl game and like Oklahoma's game last week. It's hard for them to go beyond scoring, over 100 combined points. So I think it'll be a little bit more toned down in that aspect. But of course, both offenses are both pretty unpredictable. So kind of going against myself with that. But
what's
my prediction?
Who you got?
Justin.
Oh, I think Oklahoma's going to win.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's nope. -1. I'm sorry.
I will say this. Okay, I will say this though. Before the USC game, I was not confident in Texas, and they won. Before the Oklahoma game, I was not confident in Texas, and they won. And before the Oklahoma State game, I was confident in Texas, and they lost. So
Well,
we have that.
Oklahoma State is better than USC and
Well, yeah,
TCU.
I know.
I'm
I
going
know,
to be
but
optimistic. I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to go with Texas. I don't think it'll be by a ton. I'm thinking somewhere like between 1 field goal or 1 touchdown around that.
Cameron
row.
Dicker.
Cameron
so
Dicker.
we'll see how the 4th quarter goes for both teams.
It's definitely going to be an interesting
Yeah.
one. Henry?
Well, I'm gonna have to say, I'm not saying this is what you did, but I'm not gonna. Unfortunately, I'm not gonna sell my soul to get points. I am gonna say, I think Oklahoma's gonna win, but I will say this: I think whoever is winning at halftime will win, and I say that because Texas has been very good this year at maintaining small leads. And Texas is also a team that has not been able to play from behind this season. So I think, like against Oklahoma State, they couldn't come back because their offense is not quite good enough to make a huge comeback, while at the same time their defense can contain, and especially a team like Oklahoma. So I think if whoever's winning at halftime will win the game.
Well, you earned your point back with that. I will give you that much, but I'm all in on Texas. Texas win the Big 12. They're going to the Sugar Bowl. So, yes. When we return, we're talking high-scoring football games and the college football playoff rankings. Stick around. Welcome back to College Crossfire. Let's remind everybody of the score. Since we did things a little bit differently before the commercial break, everybody got a few more points. I was giving points as they were answering questions. Everybody's got 6. Yeah. 6 after 1 across the board. So still anybody's game. Moving on, the second to last college football playoff rankings came out yesterday, with the top 3 being the same since the beginning: Alabama, Clemson, and Notre Dame.
Yeah.
However, thanks to Ohio State routing Michigan, we have a new number 4, Georgia. Oklahoma sits at 5, and Ohio State at 6. With championship weekend this weekend, who do you think should grab the last spot in the playoffs? Let's start with Justin.
So Georgia, if they somehow manage to win this game, they're going to jump ahead. If they lose this game, they're going to get out. So someone for sure is going to be in that 4th spot that's not Georgia this upcoming week. The main debate is between Oklahoma and Ohio State, And I don't like either of these teams personally, but not a fan of either of them. But I'm going to go with Oklahoma. And my reasoning behind that is because their one loss to Texas, like I said earlier, is 3 points. They've been able to hold teams back and beat them. Ohio State's had a lot closer wins, specifically to Maryland and Nebraska, where they win by like 2 or 3 points. Oklahoma's only had 1 game or 2 games that I can think of right now where they actually do win by 3. So that's why I think Oklahoma is more deserving of that 4 spot.
Yeah, and Oklahoma would have the win during championship weekend over the more highly ranked opponent.
And that is if they beat Texas.
If they beat Texas. Christine.
I'm going to go against what Justin said, and I'm going to go with Ohio State because I am not going to contradict myself and say that Oklahoma's going to beat Texas. I think Texas will beat Oklahoma. So Ohio State's been playing really well. They're also a one-loss team, so I think if they can keep it up this upcoming week, and then they can be number 4.
And just how ironic is it that you have Urban Meyer rooting for Tom Herman after everything that's happened these past few weeks? Kind of interesting if you ask me. Henry?
Well, even up to this point, I'm torn between Oklahoma and Ohio State, so I have to make a decision right now.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
And you guys had different answers, so it's not like I can be devil's advocate here. So I have to pick one team, and the team I'm going to pick is if Oklahoma beats Texas, I believe Oklahoma should be the number 4 team in the nation because despite the fact that their defense is, as Stephen A. Smith would put it, an atrocity, their offense is, like I said, their offense is very good. And in the college football playoffs, what do we want to see? We want to see high-powered offenses with a lot of points. Ohio State being number 2 in the nation in offense, that's not good enough. We need number 1.
Ooh.
So Oklahoma, number 4 if they beat Texas because of that high-powered offense.
That would have to mean that they beat Texas, which is not going to happen. Right. So, Christine, you get the point.
Okay.
Oklahoma, they're not getting in. Ohio State is. I'm sorry. Moving on, Texas basketball traveled to Las Vegas over the Thanksgiving holiday and came away with some impressive results. Facing some stiff competition, this was going to be an early test for Shaka Smart and his squad. And it's safe to say that these Longhorns look pretty good. They beat the number 7th ranked North Carolina, and they were leading 11th ranked Michigan State for a good portion of that game before fading down the stretch. As a result, the Horns sit at 5-1 and are ranked 17. So do y'all agree or disagree with where Texas is ranked right now? Let's start with Christine.
At this point, I agree with them being ranked at number 17, but it'll be interesting to see where the team goes further down the season. So Kerwin Roach is currently the all-star of that team. He's playing very consistently. In past seasons, he's played less consistently, so it'll be interesting to see how the players continue to stand out. Right now, after beating UNC, they deserve number 17, but I will see if that changes throughout the season.
I mean, it was a big win over, again, top 7 team in North Carolina. North Carolina is always perennially a top 10 team, so huge win. I think Texas did deserve to move up. Whether they should be at 17 remains to be seen over the course of the rest of the season. Henry?
Yeah, I'm going to agree. So they had a huge win against UNC, and then the Michigan State game, obviously they were up for the majority of it, but they did ultimately end up losing. So they're 1-1 so far against big-time teams. The other teams they've played haven't really been like huge teams, like they played Eastern Illinois and Arkansas. So that's why I would say number 17 is a good spot for them right now because they've had a great game against UNC and then a loss to Michigan State.
Yeah, in Texas they showed that they can play with the best teams in the country now. Still lost to Michigan State, but they showed that they can compete. Justin?
Yeah, like exactly what you just said. They're able to hang with the teams. They did a really good job on closing out with UNC. I watched that game, and it was pretty cool to see Jackson Hayes just block in that last second and just ending the game, ending UNC's hopes. But Texas needs to make sure that they're able to close out, and they were leading pretty well with Michigan State, but they just kind of went down towards the end and weren't able to close out. So Texas is, I think they're qualified to be ranked 17th right now, and kind of like what both of you guys just said, we'll see how long that they'll be able to maintain that spot. There's a lot of tough games up ahead, and the Big 12 Conference is not an easy basketball conference to play in, so I'll be interested to see how long Texas can keep this up. And a side note, this is Shaka Smart's highest ranking ever.
Really?
At Texas.
Okay.
At Texas, sorry. I need to clarify.
Well, it's impressive that Shaka has them up to 17, but I'm going to go with Henry. You're getting the point. I think that, yes, that the rest of the schedule hasn't been that tough aside from these two teams, and I think 17 is a good landing spot for them going into or continuing on throughout the rest of their season. So you're getting the point. Moving on, 54-51. That was the final score between the Rams and the Chiefs on the Monday Night Football clash 2 weeks ago in favor of the Rams. These have been two of the highest scoring teams in the league with electric quarterbacks and skill position players galore. The Chiefs are 9-2 while the Rams are 10-1. It's very possible these two teams could meet again in the Super Bowl. But will they? And would it be as high scoring? Start with Henry.
Boy, that would be a fun Super Bowl to watch.
Yes, it would.
I'm going to have to say no. In the NFC, I'm still going to give the edge to the Saints because of the experience. Drew Brees, I'll give him the edge over
Jared Goff.
Jared Goff, yeah. And then in the AFC, I actually like the Chargers in the AFC.
Chargers.
And so I would give them
Sneaky good.
the
They've been
edge
very good
over
this year.
The Chiefs. Obviously, both really young quarterbacks, and I'm not saying because of young quarterbacks they can't be in, but I would give the edge to the more experienced ones right now.
Just more experience. They have the playoff experience that these other two just don't have.
Well,
Justin?
he kind of stole my answer. That's what I was going to say. But I'd like to kind of elaborate more on that. I do see the Chiefs at least winning out and contending on the AFC side, but I'm not entirely sure if the Rams are going to be able to hold on to that. I see the Saints possibly, sliding in there. And Drew Brees has a little bit more experience. He's been to a Super Bowl before, and he's won that Super Bowl. So it'll be interesting to see if they can close out that way.
And Drew Brees has already beaten the Rams, too.
Yep,
So,
he has.
I mean, there's that. Christine?
I agree with you on the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are probably going to make it, so it's really a toss-up between the Rams and the Saints for me. But I'm going to say that there's a real possibility of the Rams and the Chiefs playing this Super Bowl. The Rams have a much easier schedule than the Saints currently. I think the Saints have the 7th most difficult schedule in the coming weeks. So just based on that, I think that the Rams have a good chance of making the Super Bowl, but we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. I mean, it would be exciting to see that, but I'm going to go with Justin. I think Drew Brees, his experience, it wins the day.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that they're going to win the Super Bowl regardless. Great offense, actually a halfway decent defense. So, Justin, you're getting the point.
For once.
All right, great debate, guys. That's it for now. We've got Rapid Fire up next. Stick around. Welcome back to College Crossfire. It's time for Rapid Fire, but let's remind everybody of the score. 7s across the board. Lucky 7s, triple 7s. So still anybody's game because of Rapid Fire. Each question is worth 2 points, and you can jump in at any time. So, moving on to the first question. If you liked Rams-Chiefs because of the high score, then you probably loved Texas A&M and LSU. These two teams combined for 146 points and went to 7 overtimes before the Aggies won 74-72. Now, 7 overtimes is quite a lot, so what do you think would be a better way to end games that seem to go into endless overtimes?
I think what you should do is you should take the 2 field goal kickers and have them start at like 30 and then 40, 50,
kickoff?
keep going all the way back.
A kickoff?
I don't.
That's very soccer-like. Now that you bring that up, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
I'm not a fan of penalty kicks either, so.
I don't know,
Justin,
Christine,
Keep
Christine?
it simple. Rock, paper, scissors. 2 out of 3. Why not? It would be the most intense rock, paper, scissors game of all time. That's the sports content that we need. Like,
All right.
It would be so cool to watch that.
Rock, paper,
Yeah.
scissors.
I mean, that's what I was initially thinking. Too. I mean, at that point, like, if you hit like 3 or 4 overtimes, just like flip a coin or something, just make it basic. Don't need to keep going.
None of these answers are very good.
My
I
counter
won't-
answer,
I'm
not
my
against
answer is going to be
I-
the way they do it right now is the best way to do it because
Tug
that
of
was an
war.
incredible game.
Yeah, but you're still getting minus a point because I didn't like the kickoff. I like the rock, paper, scissors.
no.
So, Justin, you're getting the 2 points. We've got the last rapid fire up for you right now. We've got the Red River rematch, the Red River Rivalry 2.0, Texas OU Part 2, whatever it's called. Texas and OU are playing once again this season. Now, with so many potential names for this rematch, what would you call this game, the second game, between these two Blue Bloods?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
It's got to be some kind of alliteration.
You can say whatever you want.
Besides Red River rematch.
I'm trying to think of a pun.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of one too.
H2O, no.
No, it's
How would that work?
I'm trying to think of any good
If
sequels.
we were in
to a
Houston,
movie.
that'd be funny.
It can be literally anything you want. It doesn't have to be any play on words.
Now I'm thinking of like some kind of chemistry thing.
Just a chemistry thing.
Just give it a name. Just
All
give
right.
it a name.
Red River rematch 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Electric Boogaloo. Okay.
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 No idea. I'm thinking.
Red River 2 out. That's mine.
2 out.
No. I'm sorry. No.
What are they currently calling it again? Red River 2? Like,
The Big 12 Championship.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I don't know, Red River 2. Like, it's just the same thing. I don't know. I'm not going to get the points for that.
All right, well, Justin, since you actually gave an actual legitimate answer with the electric boogaloo,
Yeah.
you're getting the 2 points. You're getting the win. Do we have time for FaceTime? Or we have time
we
for
do.
Facebook. Not on Facebook Live. Go ahead.
Texas basketball is back. That's what I think. I'm pretty confident in Texas basketball this year. Whenever I went to the Texas tip-off, Shaka Smart said this is the most solid basketball team that they've ever had, and that's saying a lot, knowing that Mo Bamba was on the team last year. So I'm very eager to see what Texas basketball has in store for the season, and I think Longhorn fans should be excited. I think that they are a Sweet 16 team. That's my hot take.
Sweet 16. That would be a step. They
would
got to
be-
get out of.
it would be-
They got to get out of the round of 64
No.
first. I mean, so.
No, I know. A sleeper
Pump the brakes a
Cinderella
little
team.
bit.
I know.
Okay,
Sleeper
okay.
Cinderella team is what I got.
Well, that's all the time that we have for tonight. Congratulations to our winner, Justin Morris. Make sure to tune in on Mondays at 9:30 for College Press Box to catch up on the latest sports news on the 40 Acres. And tune in with us next Wednesday at 9 o'clock for more College Crossfire. Don't forget to follow at TSTV Sports on social media. And for all of the panelists and everyone in studio and master control, it's 9:30 p.m. here in Austin, Texas, and OU still sucks. Have a wonderful evening. I will not apologize, Big 12. Get out. Good night.